S15. Not particularly my cup of tea, but they are a popular car. This one's here for a whole bunch of work. We've got tube front end, full roll cage, and I think there's going to be a bunch of repairs too, because it's just a generally shabby car. Good from far, far from good. Hi. Trying to do stuff. Very needy. So these boys pretty much bought the car like this. I think they got it for a song, and they brought it straight to us to get it ready for the track because drifting is dangerous and the cars are expensive. So let's have a look around it. Front end, see it's missing a few bits. Pretty classic case of a car this age. We see a lot now where it's been crashed and just had a really shitty repair job. We're not going to be able to fix all of this. This is a panel beater's job, and realistically, to do it properly, you would need to separate all of this and chase the rust back right to the end, which we're not going to do. Our specialty is in motorsport fabrication, so we're going to pretty much replace everything strut top forward and give him a nice roll cage to tie it into through the engine bay, so the car's got some level of rigidity. That might slow down the damage a little bit because this is a real weak zone in Sylvias. There's just not enough strength there, especially once they get rusty and have dodgy repairs. We see this a lot. Let's have a look at the bay. A bit more complete than I would prefer it to be. That's okay. SR20. Probably not the original motor because that's how these are. That's no good. So we're going to be lopping most of that off. I would put this in the category of too hard to fix. Definitely too expensive to fix. That compounded with someone else's crappy job, we just don't really know what's under there. So it's best just to get rid of it. What do you reckon? We'll try and find a way to tie it back into the cage. We haven't done yet. It's not too bad inside. Standard looking Sylvia. You can see we've got some new guards there. Dashboard MIA, that's fine. Factory door cards. I think we're going to try and keep these, and we'll run the roll cage under this door trim. Smells like a Sylvia, if that has a smell. I think our first job is going to be chopping that up. Take a few photos so we can remember how it all goes together and just start chopping. Let's have a closer look at the issue. Just about everywhere you look on this thing, it's dodgy repairs. So I think it's pretty easy to understand why it's here. There's all the stuff that came off with, you know, just my hands. Let's whip the bonnet off and cut it up. So I've cleared out most of the crap, or the majority of stuff we're not going to use. We're probably about 95% there. Tub's gone, radiator support's gone, pretty much all that remains is the front rails, strut tops. You can see all the front suspension's still in. Try and leave as much of it together as possible. Let's have a closer look at some of the damage. So we got previous repairs. I'm going to have to grind all this back and find some metal that's not rusty. You can see I've cut the rails right open, both sides. We're going to weld all this back up and finish it off. Same with up here, previous repairs. You can see it's pretty scungy looking. So next steps, building a good base, top and bottom to work off. Then we can look at filling in the blanks. So I had a bit of a bad day yesterday. Done a full mock-up with these chassis braces, but they're not symmetrical. It's just causing me headaches everywhere, so we're going to go backwards today and rip them out. Start again. Problem is clearance. Gonna have to change the design a bit. So initially we had planned to do a welding cage, and the plans have changed a bit because we're going to be using a full interior. Roof lining, all this quarter trims, all that sort of thing, not really suitable for a welding cage. So today I've done a bunch of prep, getting ready to do the bolt in. Cleared all the sound deadening so we can weld a plate there. You can see I've cut the in part of the pocket out. This will all be covered over by the pocket, and hopefully the tube just sticks out of there. It looks pretty factory. Here, sound deadening's gone. Trim this out for access. Should be a backstay coming down through this sort of area. The main reason we've gone down this route is because they still want to be using these guys. So if there's a problem with the legality of the car, we can take the cage out. We can put it in a new car. We decided together a welding cage just wasn't really appropriate for this car. Too much interior, not an amazing chassis to begin with, and it might still be a street car, so it just made more sense to make it a bolting cage that could be removed. Bolting cage is better suited to a full interior because I can push the limits a lot harder. I don't have to leave space to weld around, or yeah, I can strip it all out, do it out of the car, weld it on the bench. I only have to do a really small portion of welding inside the car, which is great for everybody. I think less damage, because inevitably welding is dangerous. There's sparks, there's heat, and things can get damaged when they're left in the car. So I've got a lot of stuff stripped out now, but in the end we'll be putting the seats back in, and that'll hide a lot of the mounts, so it should look as close to a factory item as we can. We're keeping the door skins. That's definitely going to cause fitment issues when we get to that. You can see that already. Keeping the heater box, keeping the sun visors, all that stuff. Now let's get started. Letting you in on a little secret. You've got to drill the holes first if you want it all to work together. There you have it. Perfect fit. This is how we remove the cage. We're using these connectors from Billet Racecraft. These are Australian and internationally compliant, so they're far stronger than the actual tube itself. In this cage, there'll be a dozen of them. The hardest part is trying to figure out a method in how we can put them in and still make them come apart, because there's no tolerance in them whatsoever. So here we've done welded plates to the chassis. A lot of the interior is still fitted in this car, maybe a little too much. I'm just about to start mocking up the door bars to work with the factory trim, and then we can look at taking it all out to weld it up properly. So I only need to weld maybe, I don't know, half of it inside the car. Just enough to hold it together in its position, so we can take it out of the car, weld it, then I'll put it back in for the final time. Still got to put gussets on all the X bars. Yeah, we'll get there. Right, let's have a quick look inside before the install. Weld-in mounts for the roll cage, giving them a quick lick of paint because there was a lot of raw material there. Rear mounts, car's still pretty stripped, as you can see. Still got a roof lining. We'll give it a vacuum out and start putting it back together. There's an extremely specific order to put this back together because they want to use the full interior, and that has its own set of challenges. Let's get started. Something to note here is that I've removed the seat belts, front and rear. The rear, because there's no way you're going to be able to get in there, and it's just insanely dangerous to be in there. And the fronts are removed too, because I can't have anybody using one of our roll cages and not using harnesses with it. It's got to be harnesses, not seat belts. They're not good enough to keep your head off the cage. So if I don't put them in, nobody can use them. End of story. Giving away some big secrets here. These two pieces need to be installed together. Because they're using a full interior, I've got to try and hide as much of the cage as possible, if that makes sense. So you don't want to see where the bars end, you don't want to see the joins as much, you want it to look like a factory item. That's my main goal, so I'm going to start throwing it in its specific order. How's that fit then? Oh.